We have compiled the coolest experiments, and some of them definitely mustn't be repeated at home. For the 10th level, we need a device called a magic sword. To start with, we should insert the metal sword into the hole and completely pierce the device. Now we have to press the lever that moves the clock hand, and as you can see, it magically passes through the sword and ends up behind it. The first time I saw this trick, I thought it's some kind of sorcery and couldn't figure out the clue. I thought the secret was in the sword, but the same thing happened with an ordinary wooden stick. It turns out that the clock hand doesn't go through the sword at all. It simply goes all the way around at an incredible speed. Using slow motion footage, we can see how the hand actually moves. On the level 20, we put an ordinary apple on an ordinary stick. The question is, what happens when I start hitting the stick on which the apple is hanging with a hammer? The obvious answer is that the apple will fall to the ground. However, by some magic, the apple, instead of sliding down, defies gravity and rises up. I slowed down the video so that you can observe what happened in more detail, and I hope that the smartest of you will give an explanation for this paradox. The day before yesterday, the Chinese sent us another strange device. It is a hermetically sealed ball containing 4 blades similar to those used to measure wind speed. Our device can show us the light pressure. That's right, the laser pointer is now pressing on my hand, even though the pressure isn't great, and now it's pressing on this hand. Pointing the laser at the black side of the blade, the light pushes them and rotates the whole structure. Let's take a small flashlight and test the pressure of its beam. Oh wow, the blades spin even faster. It turns out that sunlight also emits invisible photons that push us away during the daytime. Yet we don't feel it, and that's not a joke. NASA is already developing a spacecraft which will unfold huge sails after reaching the outer space. The sun's radiation will push the spacecraft away from Earth. The force is extremely weak, but thanks to the lack of air resistance in space, the probe will be able to accelerate to a very high speed in a few months or even years and continue to increase it even without any fuel. Level 40. For this experiment, we need a red battery and a piece of ordinary cable, from which we need to extract a thin wire. Wind it on a marker several times to get an even circle with 2 branches. Now take the same marker and smear one side of each branch with paint. Now we need 2 safety pins and a piece of duct tape to fix them on both terminals, as shown in the video. Finally, we need to attach a small magnet to the battery. The only thing left is to insert the wire into the metal safety pins and slightly push the coil, thus obtaining probably the most primitive electric motor in the world, which can be easily made by anyone. On the 50th level, we need an aluminium can of Coke, an empty one, and a small container of water with some ice. Next, we take a camping gas stove that can burn. Let's pour some water into the can and put it on the fire. Within a minute, the water starts boiling and steam comes out of the can. That's what happens once we turn the can upside down and dip it in the water. It's a well-known experiment, but we want to improve it to achieve the most effective result. Instead of opening the can by pulling the ring, we use the screwdriver to poke 2 small holes just enough to extract the liquid from it. Now we repeat all the actions and the can gets flattened much stronger than in the classic version. The reason is that during the cooling of water vapor, its volume sharply decreases and the negative pressure compresses the can. For the next experiment, we need a wooden platform and ice cubes from the freezer. Then we take a loop of thin metal wire, put it on the ice cube and hang some weight on the bottom of the loop. The more the better. In a few seconds we can observe the wire cutting through the ice and dividing it into 2 parts. However, the ice has amazing regenerative properties, thanks to which the melted water fills the cut and immediately freezes, thus forming a solid structure which can't be separated in any way. Level 70 requires a regular candle consisting of solid wax. By heating, we can melt the wax and collect it in a small tin. We are professionals, therefore we can't conduct the experiment without wearing goggles, protective gloves, and a smart cat who knows all the safety rules to oversee the procedure. When the wax heated to a certain temperature is exposed to ordinary water, it spontaneously combusts. Unbelievable! It may seem that water should extinguish the flame and reduce the probability of this occurrence. But in the case of wax, it is just the opposite. Droplets of water hitting the surface of the hot wax boil immediately and splash microparticles into the air, where they have even more contact with oxygen and easily burn, resulting in such an impressive effect. Various oils have exactly the same properties, so you must remember that extinguishing oil with water is strictly forbidden. Even a large amount of it won't lead to a positive result. Level 80. We need 2 batteries. Their general voltage is about 3 volts, so it should be sufficient enough to light this LED, one leg of which should be soldered to the black wire. Next, we need 2 teaspoons, a small container, and ordinary aluminium foil. We need to tear it into small pieces and make lots of small balls to fill our container almost completely. Now we dip 2 teaspoons into the balls as shown in the video. And finally, connect the LED batteries and spoons in one closed circuit with the help of such clamps. Everything is ready for the test. We have assembled the simplest remote control, which allows us to turn on the LED through the air without touching anything. To do this, we need a lighter, namely this part, which emits a small electrical discharge. Along with the spark, it emits a radio signal, which closes the circuit and lights up the LED in some incomprehensible way. All it takes to open the circuit and turn off the LED is a slight touch on the table surface. Unbelievable! I have no idea how it works, but it works. Now get ready for the level 90 experiment. This time we'll try to make magic balls not from Coke as we did last time, but from sweet and tasty watermelon. First, we need to scoop out all the pulp and transfer it to a small container. Using a blender, we turn it into a watermelon smoothie. Let's pass it through a strainer to get rid of large fractions. Next step is adding white powders to the smoothie and the water in which we'll pour the balls. Finally, we use a large spoon to scoop out the watermelon puree and carefully pour it into the water with calcium lactate. In 5 minutes, the sphere acquires a shell and we can extract our little watermelon ball. It looks awesome! And I hope it tastes good as well. Let's cut the shell to make sure it's still liquid inside. The watermelon puree has thickened a bit, but it hasn't lost any of its flavor. We prepared a lot of little balls from the remaining pulp and placed them back inside one of the watermelon halves. In my opinion, it looks very nice and unusual. I have kept them in the water a little longer, and the shells have become so firm that they can be hardly squashed now. For the last and most difficult experiment, we need as many as 4 powerful AA batteries. Also, I have bought 2 crocodile clips for $1, and now it's time to solder 2 copper wires to them. Next, I hammered 2 nails into this small board at a distance of about 2 centimeters away from each other and fixed the crocodile clips with wires on them. After that, we take a thin graphite rod from any pencil and clamp it between the crocodiles. Once we connect the power supply, the electric current concentrates on the rod, heating it intensely enough to make it glow brightly. Some particles burst out of the glowing rod into the air. It looks enchanting. At the same time, this process oxidizes the rod and splits it into molecules until it breaks apart. Under these conditions, one rod can glow for about 30 seconds. The reason for this is the oxygen supply. So what if we tried to remove it? To proceed to the final level, I had to buy more rods and replace the exhausted batteries with this power supply. In this case, we mount the board with the crocodile clips inside the lid of a small glass jar. The glass is meant to protect the rod from oxygen. But first we have to get rid of the oxygen contained inside the jar. For this purpose, we pour several droplets of alcohol on the board, ignite it quickly and screw the jar shut. Alright, let's smoothly apply the power. It seems to be working. Even such a thin rod emits enough light to illuminate the entire room. Pay attention to the strange smoke released from the rod during the first few seconds of the glow, and then it seems to concentrate back into the graphite rod. It looks like the opening of some kind of a portal. If you enjoyed this type of video, please give it a thumbs up and write a comment. After all, how else will I find out that you like it?